Hi everyone, and welcome to lesson 3 on your Antarctica topic with myself, Mr. Jones, from the Humanities department. This lesson is going to be based on a famous event called the Race for the South Pole. Our objectives today is all we'll be able to recreate the story of the Race for the South Pole by creating a storyboard. Most will be able to answer all questions effectively based on the race for the South Pole, and some will be able to record a diary entry one day on Captain Scott's Antarctic journey. So I'll give you time, you can pause the video to write the title and then we'll move on. Okay, so I've got our two adventurers in front of you, Captain Robert Falcon Scott from the UK and Roald Amundsen, Norway. These two men wanted a race to be the first man to the South Pole in Antarctica. You had Captain Robert Scott, he was representing the UK, and Roald Amundsen, he came from Norway. Both from Europe, both very competitive and both very famous adventurers. So, to work out our story, I've given you a list of different statements for our timeline. I've given 8 different statements, and the ones I've got in front of you are in the incorrect order. Your job is to try and work out what is the correct order of these 8 statements. The way you can do that is if you imagine A, B, C, D, etc. You can write that down in your book as this copy, because you don't have to copy them yet. And you can start to guess which order they go in. What I would recommend is next to the letter, maybe write the first 2 words of each one so you know which statement it is. So A would be a blizzard hits, B, Amundsen used dogs, C, Scott's team, D, November 1911, so forth, so forth. When you start to work this out, you can do on the other side of your page or just below, you can try and put the order you think they go into. If you want to get started now, you can pause the video and begin, or you can listen to me read for each one and then start. So I'm going to start reading through. A blizzard hits, so the remaining 3 men set up camp. The blizzard doesn't stop, and the last 3 men freeze to death in their tents. Their bodies are found 8 months later. Amundsen used dogs to pull his sled, made it to the pole in 1 month, on the 14th of December, and put up a Norwegian flag and returned home safely. Scott's team made it to the South Pole 33 days after Amundsen, realised they lost and started to make their way home. November 1911, both teams leave their base camps to make their 800-mile journey to the South Pole. Next, Scott used horses. They started to die. They couldn't deal with the conditions. Their bodies were left as food for when they had to make their return journey. Captain Scott left Cardiff in 1910. His team arrives at Antarctica June 1911, the same time as Roald Amundsen arrived from Norway at the Ross Ice Shelf. Next, Officer Evans dies as he falls behind, and Captain Oates, with severe frostbite, a condition you can get when in the freezing climate of Antarctica, he walks out the tent one night and he is never seen again. And then next, Scott's men pulled the sledges. Sweat started to freeze and stick their clothes to their skin due to the horrible conditions. So these are the statements I've just read out. I would like you to try and work out yourself what order they go into. Once you think you've got it, press resume in the video and I'll be going through the answers. Okay, welcome back. So, here is the correct order. Captain Scott left Cardiff in 1910 and he arrived in June 1911, the same time as Roald Amundsen. November 1911, both teams leave their base camps to make an 800-mile journey to the South Pole. Amundsen used dogs to pull his sled, made it to the pole in 1 month, on the 14th of December, and put up a Norwegian flag and then returned home safely. Scott used horses. They started to die. The bodies were left as food for the way back. Scott's men pulled the sledges. Sweat started to freeze and stick their clothes to their skin. And Scott's team finally made it to the South Pole 33 days after Amundsen, realised they lost and started to make their way home. On their way home, Officer Evan dies as he falls behind, and Captain Oates, with severe frostbite, walks out of the tent one night, never to be seen again. And finally, a blizzard hits, so the remaining 3 men from Scott's team set up camp. The blizzard doesn't stop, and the last 3 men freeze to death in their tents. Their bodies are found 8 months later. So, in your book, can you please write down the correct order? You don't need to copy out the full sentences. If you have used a letter system or number system, please use that. But this slide is always available to go back to. So now presenting it in the correct way. I'm going to be asking you to create a storyboard. A storyboard will need 8 boxes, 16 boxes, but 8 sections. So you have the smaller sections for the writing and larger for your images. So altogether it's 16, but you can look at it as a group of 4 and a group of 4, because there's 8 statements. In these small boxes, you will be writing each statement. So the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, 8th. Captain Scott left Cardiff in 1910. His team arrives at Antarctica June 1911, same time as Roland Munson arrived from Norway at the Ross Ice Shelf. Again, I wasn't able to use my art skills, which are fantastic, so I've just put an image of Cardiff, image of Norway, 2 arrows pointing to Antarctica to show where they came from and what journey they made. It's up to you what you put into these image boxes. It just needs to be relatable to something you have put in the written section. So the second option is November 1911. Both teams leave their base camps to make the 800-mile journey to the South Pole. You could draw maybe Scott's team or Munson's team marching along, and you could do an arrow saying South Pole 800 miles away. That'd be quite a creative idea. Next one, I'll give you one more example. Munson used dogs to pull his sled, and he made it to the pole in 1 month. If you want to show him celebrating around the South Pole, that'd be fantastic. Or you could do images of the South Pole in the distance and his team moving along with dogs pulling the sled. So to complete this storyboard, you will need to use at least an A4 page in your book, or paper if available. A3 would be ideal, but minimum A4. So your statements are here if you need to refer to them on your screen, and then this should be done on paper in book. So once you've completed, I would recommend doing the writing first, and then you've completed all 8 images in good detail and with colour, you can then move on. So pause the video, carry on with the task, and then resume when you're ready. Okay. We're now going to have a quick look at what did you learn. I want to check that you haven't just copied the information out, you've picked it up and you understood it. If you're finding these questions very difficult, or any that they do get more difficult as you go along, you can go back and check answers, or you can use the answers from your storyboard. So, please answer in full sentences. I placed the questions here to ask you, but can you write it, number 1, in full sentences? So if I asked you, who won the race for Antarctica? Okay, or the South Pole, can you please put whoever won? So you could say a Munson or Captain Scott won the race for the South Pole in Antarctica. The next question, what country was Munson from? The country Munson was from is, and you place there, what city did Captain Scott leave from? Captain Scott left for his journey from, and that's how I want the sentences written, okay? You go through and they're all very similar. Number 6 is what dangers did adventurers face when travelling? You can look back at your storyboard for this and you can use your imagination. How many men died on Captain Scott's team? You might need to look back to your storyboard. Can you work out what date Captain Scott reached the South Pole? You will need to use a bit of numeracy and understand your dates and how many days in a month to work that one out. And then finally 8. In your opinion, why did Captain Scott lose the race to the South Pole? Give detail in your answer and what he could have done differently. So what did a Munson do Captain Scott didn't? Was it to do with how they travelled? Was it to do with where they started? You can also look at further research if you want to add anything to this. The extension, which I hope most people reach and attempt, it doesn't have to be a page worth of writing, but I would like some detail in it. I would like you to put a diary entry from a member of Captain Scott's team. And it only has to be a day. What you need to make sure you include is what happened that day. Were there any key events? Or you can mention things that you've learnt in this lesson. How do you feel currently? What stage are you at? Is it the beginning you've decided to do this diary entry? Is it near the end? Is it in the middle? There were many different emotions going around. Has the excitement gone from maybe at the start to maybe more negative feelings on your way back, realising that Amundsen got there first? And what do you think is going to happen? Talk about the next day. Is there anything that's worrying you? Is there anything you feel confident about? There will be your teacher available through Teams if you need any help in that extension, but please prioritise completing the questions first. I hope this is okay. Good luck on the questions, and I hope to see some great diary entries if you reach it. Thank you very much for listening, and good luck. Bye all.